Winters.
Everybody to find your doodle poll because
Okay, I think we're ready to go. People are still trickling in a little bit, but I think we'll go ahead and get rolling. I'm going to basically do a roll call here in a second. I am running the meeting today and will be also running the meeting for the March meeting, as there were travel plans that Jim had made that were conflicting with these dates. But he said that the rest of the year he should be okay, so he'll be back for those meetings. My name is Kelly Sheen. I'm the district manager for the Trinity County Resource Conservation District, and also co-facilitator for the collaborative group. And I'll toss to my right.
Diana Sheen,
Terry Sheen,
interested public.
proud of my son.
Okay, now I'll do a roll call for everybody on Zoom. Let's see, we'll start with Arnold Whitridge.
Arnold Whitridge, present here. Hi. Good
Hello.
morning.
Good morning, Arnold. Julie Potts, somebody new to this group. Would you do like a real quick intro for yourself?
Happy to. Good morning, everybody. I'm Julie Potts. I'm with the State of California Sierra Nevada Conservancy, mostly just listening in. We work across the Sierra Cascade. I'm the person in the North State covering Modoc, Siskiyou, Trinity, and Shasta counties. So thanks for having me and happy to just listen in.
Thank you again, Julie, for being here today. Appreciate you joining us. I'll go jump to Susan Molyneux.
Hi, I'm Susan Molyneux. I'm public member of the collaborative, and Ross is with me.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us, Susan and Ross. All right, Carol.
Hi, Carol Fall, mostly North Lake and Trinity Center Volunteer Fire Department stuff.
Great, thanks, Carol. Kenneth Baldwin.
Yes, I'm a consulting forester with BBW.
Okay, thanks for joining us, Kenneth. Joe Miller.
Yeah, we got, says Joe Miller, but it's Ren Winters and Tyler Geist from Trinity River Lumber Company.
Okay, Ren and Tyler. All right, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Make a note here real quick. All right, and then Jennifer.
Good morning, Jennifer Mata. I'm the field manager with the Bureau of Land Management's Reading Field Office. Good to see and hear everybody this morning.
Thanks for joining us, Jennifer. Monique.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Monique, Partnership Coordinator at the Shasta Trinity. Glad to be here, and I'll pass it back to you, Kelly.
Thanks, Monique. All right. Adam Kuntz, representing the the Six Rivers, as I recall.
Yep, that's correct. Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Adam Kuntz. I am the fuels planner for the Mad River Ranger District on Six Rivers National Forest, and I'm standing in today for my district ranger, Kristen Lark, who is on leave today. So I'll be taking over for her today.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Adam. We really appreciate that. Okay, Jerry.
Good morning, everybody. Jerry Cousins, collaborative member, and want to wish everybody a happy and healthy New Year.
Very good. Happy New Year. Thanks, Jerry. Let's see, Ben.
Hey, good morning. Ben Sundahl, Deputy District Ranger for the South Fork and Trinity River Management Units of the Shasta Trinity National Forest.
All right, thanks for joining us, Ben. is Tara going to be here today at all?
Tara's in training this week in Arizona, so you won't see her today.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Thanks for being here, Ben.
Yep.
Okay, Sarah.
Good morning, everyone. Sarah Akridge, District Ranger for the National Recreation Area Management Unit of the Shasta Trinity National Forest.
Thanks for joining us, Sarah. Let's see, Larry.
Larry Glass was safe and original collaborative member.
Awesome, thanks. Thanks, Larry. And we're up to Christine.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Christine Jordan. I'm a biologist with the Fish and Wildlife Service out of the Wairika office.
Good to see you, Christine. Thanks for joining us. Let's see, Xander.
Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. I'm Xander Winter, forester with the Watershed Center.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Xander. And I think what are the last four digits on that phone number? Can you see it? Somebody on the phone with the last four numbers of 4840.
That's me, Tom Waltz.
Ah, Tom. Okay. Thanks for joining us, Tom.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Did I miss anybody? I think that was everybody. Yeah, we got everybody in the room first. Okay, very good. I think we got everybody.
And original collaborative as well.
Yes, of course. Okay, let's see, moving on. Agenda check. Is there any time sensitive items or any additions to the agenda?
Kelly, this is Jerry. I have one. I'd like a spot for a report out from the small forestry work group.
Oh, very good. Let's see. Let's go ahead and do we mind having that with other items partner along with the recreation committee a little bit later? Or would you prefer that further up the line?
Yeah, sure, anytime, but just want to get it there.
Okay, very good. I will include that then. Okay, very good. Any other additions, changes to the agenda? All right, not hearing any, we're moving along. We had Marla do another summary of the transcript, so that we have a summary and we have our standard collective memory transcript. Any comments or changes to that? Yes, I see Carol.
It's a really minor thing, but it's on both the detailed and the summary, which is talking about the North Trinity County Communities Risk Reduction Project going to Expo. I think it was SO, right? The supervisor's office, not just for future reference. People might wonder what Expo is.
Good point. Where are we seeing that?
On the detailed summary, it's on page 17, and then on the summary, it was on page 5, talking about the North Trinity County's Community Risk Reduction Project.
I saw that too, Carol, and AI is not always our friend.
Yeah, there were other little minor typos, but that was the one I thought would confuse people in the future if they were looking. They're like wondering, what is Expo?
Okay.
Yeah, and there were a couple of non sequitur sentences, but oh well.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know that Marla does her best to try to clean up some of that as she's kind of reading through the transcript, because we run it through the AI, get the transcript, and then she goes through and assigns individual names and things of that nature. So she tries to pick up as much as she can.
She does a great job. That was a great summary. Yeah.
Perfect. The summary though is all hers. Like that's she's I think got a pretty good grasp on everything that's moving forward with the group and has been doing, I think, a pretty excellent job with with the summaries, and hopefully everybody's appreciating that. So, okay, we'll make a note to that effect. I'm not actually seeing exactly where it is, but I'll make sure to pick that up.
What page?
On 17.
Okay.
Expo. Okay, very good. Thank you for those comments and clarifications. We have public input. Not really seeing any other individuals for public input unless anybody has somebody online. Okay, not hearing any public input. We'll move on to follow-up items from the previous meeting. We have U.S. Forest Service Management Review recommendations, update and discussion. I do believe that I received that, and I think that I shared that out to the group. Is that my recollection? Is my recollection correct? Yes, Carol.
So you shared the summary. Last time we talked about Rachel sending out the detailed response. So, because I had specific questions about, how they were going to address some of the issues, some of the internal fixes. So they were, I hope, gonna show us how they were gonna propose to address issues like grants and agreements being short-staffed and so long to get contracts through. So I don't think we got because we had the general summary before last meeting, before November.
Yes.
So subsequent to that, Rachel was supposed to send out a detailed summary, and I don't think we got that.
Okay, I think you're correct in that assumption, and I don't think that I've seen that. Is that something Ben Sundahl can help us with?
I'll ask her, but I believe the summary that was sent, I think it was in November or early December, was the information she was going to share from the GMR. But I can circle back with her.
The extent of the information she would share?
Yeah, I can circle back with her.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure that's what she wanted to share was what you received in November, December timeframe of last year, 2024.
I will double check to make sure I'm not missing anything, but I only remember receiving the one specific email from her about that.
Yeah, we talked about that last time. I mean, that general summary, it's like giving a lot of praise to the partners and all that, for working together, which is great. But then it didn't include fixes for the things that we brought up. Like the issues with grants and agreements and stuff. So we talked about, there's limitations on what she can release because of personnel issues. We totally understand that. But we did talk last time, if you check, about the details for how to fix some of the issues that we brought up. And that's where there was supposed to be a subsequent more detailed release, and that's what I'm looking for.
Hey, Carol, this is Monique. I'm just listening in on this, but so you're just looking for what has changed over the past year since that GMR has been conducted? Because I mean, there definitely have been a lot of improvements in our grants agreements, staff getting agreements completed a lot quicker. There's certain circumstances that would make an agreement take longer, but for the most part, we've been making improvements at the district level, the forest level, and at our regional level. If that is something that I can look into further, I'm sure there's something that exists at our regional office that might be helpful to check out and provide. If that is something that I can look into a little bit more, and then I can provide you with information of what we're doing at the forest level to make those improvements as well. For example, we've been doing trainings for staff, and so far on the forest, we've been able to train 40 different employees and being able to manage and learn how to do certain agreements. We have larger agreements that come from our grants and agreement staff, but then we also have volunteer agreements that come from the forest and could be executed at the district level. So there's definitely been some improvements. If I can get you that information, would that be good for the next meeting?
Well, I appreciate that, Monique. I'm hoping that things get better. That was just one example of what the issues that were brought up by the different partners meeting with individual groups. That happened to be one of the ones in our group. And so I'm just, that general review that Rachel provided didn't really go into detail about how they're gonna fix all the different issues that the individual groups brought up. And so that's what I'm looking for. I don't, if you read that general review, it's just kind of a pat on the back thing, we're doing great, da, 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 da. You are doing great, but where problems were identified, that's where I'm looking for, what your plans are to fix those. And so if the plan for fixing grants and agreements is more training and all that, that's awesome. Didn't help with the Bowerman Barn Foundation, which missed all the timeframes. But it's just a bigger problem that I was trying to see where you guys were trying to resolve that or not. But anyway, that's why I brought it up. And that's what I thought we talked about last month, in November, if you look at the collective memory. Okay, that's
Thanks.
it on that one.
Okay, very good. Is that something that's doable, Monique, or Ben?
I'd direct to Ben. I could only answer the grants and agreement side of it, but it seems like there's definitely more than just that.
I will say, I have noticed sort of increased level of responsiveness from grants and agreements, which has been really great. So greatly appreciated from the partner perspective. Thank you for that. Okay, very good. We'll move on then. The next one was collaborative group bylaws, charter review, discussion. I know that we did get into this a little bit with the last meeting. And I think I had some very strong assistance from Jim Spear in putting together this agenda. And according to his notes, he was basically making a comment about this, that he wanted to bring this up again just to double check to see if there was any other discussion that was warranted regarding the need to kind of double check like how we're doing business just in general. There's been some changes, since COVID with regard to like in-person meetings and having them in Weaverville and having them in Hayfork, for example, which we have not been doing since that time frame. So I guess wanted to put that out on the floor to see if there was any other comments about bylaws and, whether we felt like there was a need for revision or if we felt like there was any pieces that we needed to sort of reinstitute or get back to. Yes, Carol.
Yeah, I think some of the fixes are pretty straightforward in terms of, how we meet and all that. But we've gotten away from things like people being, what is it, the term, the representative for a vote, I'm not the representative for, proxy. We've gotten away from announcing proxies and all that stuff, and we've gotten away from, if you don't attend so many meetings, you're kicked off, blah, blah, blah. So I looked at that and I just didn't know what the group consensus was, whether to recommend changes to that or not. So I do think that's kind of worth more discussion, what you want to do as far as proxies and membership and all that kind of stuff. Arnold, what do you think? Because you were the charter guru.
Real quick to that note, I did have only one email that was sent back to me, and I honestly, I skipped ahead when we were like going through roll call. Like Bob Morris notably is not here today, and he had basically asked, Larry to be his proxy. So that's kind of on me. I think for this particular meeting in particular, I kind of glossed over that because that's usually something that Jim handles. So we can definitely do better with regard to that specifically. But it was also noted that we frequently or infrequently have full votes anymore for specific actions, even when it comes to things like recommending, letters, support, or things that need to go to the Board of Supervisors. So I think, we certainly can be a little bit more from the facilitation end of things, be more cognizant of that. But Jerry, do you have any specific comments? Or Larry, or anybody?
I don't. There was a recommendation that newer participants read the bylaws so that they're familiar with it. And you're right, there hasn't been a lot of votes. And what was the other one besides attending meetings? Has there been a lapse in that? So people not attending and then showing up and voting, or, well, we haven't voted, so I'm not seeing too much of a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that we've been fairly good about, I know that there was like, oh, you have to be present for the previous 2 meetings before you can have a vote, was one of the other specific requirements like set forth in the bylaws. And I think by and large, we really haven't strayed from that direction. But Larry, do you have any additional comments?
Yeah, I know that things have gotten looser, but we do have to try and keep a hold of that, who can vote and who can't vote, because there are going to be some votes, not that many, but there are going to be some votes that come up. And I think we got to stick to our original belief about who can vote and who can't.
Okay. Well, we do have a record of, attendance and things of that nature. So that's certainly something that we used to have a matrix actually of like the previous 6 meetings or something to that effect. That people would, like when we were attending in person, people would basically initial to denote that they were actually present for that meeting. We haven't really been doing that per se, but it's certainly something that from facilitation end of things that we can fairly easily recognize, the folks that are on pretty solid versus, might be showing up for this one particular topic that might have a vote. So we'll definitely be aware of that as we're moving forward.
That sounds good. I just wanted an idea from the group of, what they wanted to change. It doesn't sound like we have to change much other than update the meeting options.
Yes. Okay. Yes, Susan.
I just wanted to bring up one thing, and that is it's mentioned in the charter, but it's beyond the charter as well, is the public members or any members. We really need more members, I believe. We have, collaborative meetings that are full of agency reports, but I think we also need to include the public and, maybe design some kind of mechanism or some kind of plan for, getting more people into this decision-making process.
Yeah, I agree with that. That was something I was actually just thinking about earlier this morning. And because that was a topic that I remember from a previous meeting and the discussion that we were having. I think what we can do from a facilitation end of things, we we'll probably go ahead and do some public media outreach with regard to that. As well as we may go ahead and, I mean, I think just because of the nature of the funding that we have for doing facilitation, I can, although it's not necessarily a line item unless Monique thinks this is a bad idea, but I think we can advertise also within the Trinity Journal, which actually does have a pretty wide readership. You'd be surprised at how many people comment on things that we have that the RCD has in the paper. So that would be another way to outreach. But obviously, word of mouth and people that we know in the community that we can encourage would certainly be probably one of the stronger methods to encourage an increased level of participation within the group. So how does that sound to people?
Sounds
okay. Thumbs up from Monique too. Okay, good.
I'll check out the language in there, but that shouldn't be an issue no matter what. We can change it if it's not in.
Okay.
But that sounds good to me.
That's a pretty, small.
Yeah, it's super small. I think it's in there actually.
I think we had like advertising and a few other little, items that we usually like have set aside in there that were related more to the, actual, in-person meetings and things of that nature, which I think if we're encouraging participation, in my mind, as long as you guys are okay with it, we can justify that probably pretty easily. That'd be great. Thanks, Monique. Okay, very good. Any other comments on the charter? Okay, hearing none. Moving on. Follow-up discussions, lessons learned regarding pilot project field review. I'm not sure what Jim was thinking about with regard to that, but do we have any comments to that effect from people that were on that field tour?
This is Jerry. I noticed in the memory that after the last discussion, Tara was going to go out and take a look at what the comments were reflecting. I wonder if Ben knows if she got out there to review that.
Yeah, as far as I know, with her ending her detail on the Lassen mid to late December, then taking some leave during the holidays, and then having to travel to Arizona this past week for priority training. I don't believe she has gotten out there yet. So just let her get her, I'd say let her get her feet back underneath her and she'll get out there. I know it's on her to-do list.
Larry Glass.
Yeah, I thought Jerry was going to mention this, but maybe he wants to follow up after I say what I'm saying. But basically, as a result of that field trip, the group that put together the original collaborative white paper has reconvened, expanded the members of the group, and we've been meeting to come up with a more detailed and expansive white paper. And I can let Jerry fill in some of the blanks.
I was going to cover that when we got to the small work group report. All those details. Can we wait for that?
We can do that now if you guys would prefer, since it's topical.
Okay, well, based on requests from some of the Forest Service foresters for some input on treating other than the linear fuel breaks, the small work group formed a committee that kind of addressed that and provided a paper with suggestions on treatments. And just yesterday, actually, we had a real energetic meeting reviewing all that. That was our first review of things. A couple of us will rewrite what was originally presented. And then hopefully within a month or at the very latest, at the next meeting, we should have that paper for review for the entire collaborative. And then we will submit it to the Forest Service as far as treatment options that the collaborative would like to recommend for the more landscape work rather than just the roadside fuel break. Does that cover it? Anybody who was at that meeting?
I think it covers it. I guess we need to check whether what you just said is that the collaborative would send it to the Forest Service, and there's some people that think the collaborative doesn't send anything to anyone except to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation that they do it. So this is kind of a technical thing that that may not maybe shouldn't apply to, but we need to look at that. It may be that it may be that we'll just have to go through the whole charter and bylaws and present an updated version to clarify questions like that keep coming up.
You mean as far as like how we make recommendations? And you're correct in that most of the time we're acting as an advisory group to some degree for the supervisors, but in a situation like this, I guess is the group comfortable with making direct suggestions to agency partners, I think is what you're questioning, right, Arnold?
Right, that's one of several possible things that maybe should be clarified or at least revisited for new people and so on. So I'll undertake to as one person and try and review the charter and bylaws really carefully and see if I can figure out where there is conceivable problems. I always, my motto is what could go wrong, and there's usually a few things that could go wrong. So we'll try and write things to prevent things going wrong. But yeah, so on the whole, Jerry summarized well what's going on.
I'm not bothered about the process since it was a specific request from Cody and Nate to give them input which came about from us being on a field trip and looking at real problem areas, and they're wanting us to.
Yeah, it may not be that simple.
Yeah, that isn't necessarily my view of it. My view of it was that we were finding a failure between the agency and the collaborative because the pilot project took a decade and then we couldn't even recognize it anymore. So we realized we needed to go back and really clearly define what we were talking about. And I think that's also part of this, besides what Jerry said. I mean, that's true too, but beyond that, there was a real desire to get very much more clear about what we're requesting as the collaborative.
Agreed, and I think though we should just really try and keep it simple.
Yeah, Kelly, this is Tom. One thing to think about for everybody is that the discussion does move from a fuel break linear to a landscape level, which includes all agencies, BLM and Whiskey Town National Park and everything else in between, Trinity County anyway. But just the idea that we're trying to, as a collaborative, establish a vision for how public land in Trinity County could have beneficial management activities done. And so I think I agree with Larry that it's probably going to be something that needs to go before the Board of Supervisors at some point because it's a different expansive view of the world coming from the collaborative.
Well, that was what I was starting to hear, was that, to me, if we're changing the white paper significantly enough to, to make suggestions to, of our agency partners, then I think, obviously, first of all, that would kind of follow suit with the previous discussion, which is, okay, well, if we have a draft, that should go, I think, before the collaborative, have a vote that we're recommending that then go to the Board of Supervisors and then that way, that route, it has a little more gravity, and then it can go, more officially to our agency partners like the Forest Service. Does that sound appropriate?
Yeah, yesterday's meeting was really the first go around with the full small group to go through the details. And like I said, we intend to bring the final recommendation to the whole collaborative for review.
Yeah. And the way we did it last time was not exactly like that. We came up with it, we brought it to the whole collaborative, but I don't think it ever went to the Board of Supervisors. So this time, I think this is going to be a broader look at, what Tom said. And I do think eventually this should go to the Board of Supervisors with our recommendation, if we can get there. I think we can, but.
I think you're right. I don't remember the first one going to the board.
No, it didn't.
No.
Okay, so is that something that we can expect to have a draft to review then for, say, the March meeting?
Yes.
Or do we need to do it sooner than that?
No, I think March meeting's a good goal for us.
Okay, great. That sounds really good. So, once you guys have that, you make sure that you can send it on to me, and then I'll distribute it along with the other materials, agenda and whatnot for the March meeting.
So in that vein, what do you think about the appropriateness, since it's a draft going to the collaborative, about sending it to agencies? Or should it just stay within the collaborative for review before it's finalized, before it's published wider?
I think that's completely doable. I have a separate list that I maintain that's just, active voting members of the collaborative, which excludes, that's just members of the public essentially, and excludes the agency folks. So if that's, I think that would be completely appropriate in this particular case.
Does people agree with that approach?
See nodding. I don't.
Yeah. No knows. I guess so.
Silence is consensus.
Right.
I can see that. Carol's got a thumbs up. Okay, so let's shoot for that. So that's something that we can certainly do in advance of that March meeting, and then have more discussion at that point, and then move that forward with whatever revisions the group sees fit. So.
And it'll be, Kelly, it'll be our intent to get it to you prior to the meeting so people have time to read it and think about it and
absolutely
come to the table to talk.
Yes, sounds good. That sounds perfect. Thanks, Jerry. Any other discussion on this topic? Comments? Okay, very good. All right, moving on in follow-up items. North Lake Trails Committee project proposal update. I'm going to state that I know that we got the collaborative's letter of support out to the board. I believe that it got voted on, but I don't have a confirmation of that. Carol, do you happen to know any more about that?
Yeah, so as Pat explained to the Recreation Committee, he just happened to be at the board meeting and it wasn't on the agenda. So they put it on the agenda as an emergency item to allow Supervisor Lutweiler, who was the chairman at the time, to send the letter. the board has to essentially retroactively approve that. So the letter was signed. We just don't know if it was mailed, and I apologize. I was gonna check with Callan Keller to see if she got the letter. But I forgot to do that. So I will check and make sure that she got the letter. And I think even if it wasn't received by January 3rd, because they did extend the time frame, that they would consider that anyway. It just wouldn't have the formal conditions as far as responding and stuff.
Very good. And for context, this letter was meant to encourage the forest to include or retain looking at recreation within the North Lake Risk Reduction NEPA. Is that correct?
Yeah, basically the issue was that during the field trips and the earlier meetings, the Forest Service had indicated that they would include trails, but then to a certain extent, they were telling Watershed Center staff that they were not sure if they could include trails because of staffing limitations on the planning teams. And so we wanted to make sure that the trails, to whatever extent possible, remained within the scope of the project. So the letter was to encourage Forest Service to do that.
Okay. Very good. So it sounds like that letter has gone out within the scoping period. And I guess we'd be waiting then to hear back how that's responded to by the NRA, right?
Right.
Okay. Okay. Anything else on that, Carol, that we need to bring up?
Nope.
Okay. That's moving forward. Very good. Thank you for the assist on that, Carol. All right, Stewart's Fork Boat Ramp Management Change Proposal Update. And I believe that the request was made to discuss whether or not we could change the Stewart's Fork Boat Ramp area to a day use area, as I recall. And there was going to be some legwork that needed to be done on the forest side to figure out like what that process would look like. Am I remembering that correctly, Carol?
Yeah, and Ben will chime in, I'm sure. I mean, the issue is that would require more environmental planning, and right now the planning teams are kind of overwhelmed. So it sounded like it would take a while before Forest Service could get to that. But yeah, the Recreation Committee long term is interested in having the Forest Service evaluate that as a day use area, because when the water level's down in the lake, people are using that area, but the Forest Service isn't deriving any income. So we're just hoping that they might be able to get some money if they convert it to a day use area and can charge in the future.
Great. Thank you, Carol. Ben, do you have any update on that?
Yeah, so I heard back from our just before the holidays, our public services staff officer. So there's a path we can take on this. I just need to dive into the policy and guidelines on how to convert that to a day use area. But as Carol mentioned, if it's gonna take some homework and some workload for our specialists to make this happen, they are kind of stretched right now. We also have to factor in declining budgets and the struggle, or the possible struggle to maintain it. But the amazing thing we have on the west side is strong partnerships. So maybe this initiative is something that a few of our staff in rec could, and I hate to say it, create another subcommittee with the collaborative recs group and really start diving into the policy and guidelines on how to convert that and maybe come up with a game plan to do it. So it's something to think about for the future, and maybe we start getting a few like minds together to kind of brainstorm this out. But there's going to be some homework to dive into and some reading to do to make sure we do it the correct way.
Very good, Ben. Thanks. Is that something, well, I mean, obviously, just based on the timing and stuff, this will all mostly occur after the National Recreation Area has shift management from the NRA to the TRMU, correct?
I would say that probably the best bet is to wait till the TRMU takes over the Trinity Lake Lewiston NRA, and then have those folks specifically on the Forest Service side, who will then now be 100% dedicated to that land area, to start diving into this with maybe some assistance from the rec group with the collaborative. So I think the partnership's strong enough to go at this as a team and come up with some recommendations on how to move forward. So the transition timeline is supposed to be, the transition is supposed to be complete May of 2025, so in a few months. Just to give you some time frames.
Great. Thanks for that, Ben. Joe Miller, you have your hand up. Or Tyler?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. This is Rand. I just had a question and a concern. The question being, if we include these rec kind of projects within the larger NEPA projects, would that slow down? I mean, does that tie up NEPA planners that would otherwise be planning more fuel reduction projects more efficiently? My concern is that by adding in bike trails or whatever, that we are reducing the amount of fuel reduction that occurs.
Yep, I mean, good question. So it'd all be based on priorities, you know. So of course the wildfire crisis strategy, the larger landscape projects will remain the priority, unless we hear something different from the new administration come in. But that's something to discuss later. But yes, their priorities would be landscape level projects. And then when the specialists are in a comfortable spot and they have a little wiggle room in their workload, these smaller I hate to say smaller, but these other projects could be fit into those specialists' schedule. And that's just a dance we need to do with our specialists based on their workloads. So we juggle workloads on a daily basis based on priorities and where they're at with those priorities. So it's just one of those things that we have to have daily discussions on just to see where everybody's at and get a pulse check and see what we can move on and what still needs to be kind of paused so we can focus on the landscape level projects. So hopefully that kind of gives you a picture of how we kind of manage workload for our specialists and our staff.
Kelly, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Carol.
sorry, my Zoom is not working so well, but the trails part, maybe to answer Ren's question a little bit, we did prioritize trails that were within geographic areas where the Forest Service has had projects in the past, like the Bowerman Ridge cooperative fuel break and stuff. So the idea was to not pick up new areas where some of the surveys hadn't been done and stuff. So we were cognizant of trying to reduce the extra burden on the Forest Service as far as which projects might be added as far as trails go.
Very good. Sarah, you just popped up.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question because there are always trade-offs in terms of staff time and the work we're doing. And I would say I just really appreciate the work that the collaborative and the trail subcommittee did do to try and prioritize where they're most interested in that trails work occurring. And we are in the process of having our West Side Recreation staff kind of ground truth the segments that have been proposed and look at where, along with a few of our specialists, where we can minimize those resource conflicts and continue to move through the overall project quickly. And we're focusing on those kind of interests and priorities of the collaborative first, as far as our ground truthing goes, to figure out and really pin down what aspects of the trail are going to end up in the document. So really appreciate the input and all of the collaboration that has happened on the trails aspect thus far. It's really gotten us much farther than we could ever be on North Lake Trail than without the collaborative's help. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Do we feel like we have good direction on this particular set of topics and can move on at this point? Okay.
Yes.
I'd say that's again tacit acceptance. So we'll move forward. Thank you all for that conversation, and it's interesting just how many of these topics are kind of tied together. Yes, I see Ross hand up.
I'd like to say a little bit about the importance of trails. It's like they're incidental to the other projects, and I think that they're integral. I'm going to do a couple of minutes here, so please. We've all heard stories about, well, I walked up the trail and it was grueling, but we got to the top of the mountain and it made the views, made it worthwhile. And I think that it didn't. That walking up the trail prepared you for making the views. You know, we used to use words in the olden days like rusticate or something like that. There's the newer terms now like forest bathing and what not, you know. So being in nature, exposed to nature, prepares you for it, and it changes you. It changes the person. So the people that build trails, Josh and Jack and Mike McFadden, you know, they can actually change people's lives. They walk along the trail, they get exposed to it, they get exposed to nature, and they love it. When we see, we walked around we could see walk around on a path and see the lake. You know, the trail is preparing us for that view, and we love it. And so if you want to protect an area, you get people to love it, you know, and they will protect it. So I think the trails are integral to this thing, and getting the population to use the trails. And to, you know, what's the difference between walking down the trail and catching a view of the lake or stopping at the vista point and jumping out of your car? There's ample parking and easy access to look at the lake, but you haven't bought into it. You haven't hiked it. You have no. I should have wrote those words down, but you know, so the trails are very important, and the trails are like the most important, because when you make people love something, you protect what you love. You protect your family. You love your family, and then it goes out from there. But you protect what you love, and so if you want to preserve something, you let people you expose people to it. You don't keep them out. If you keep them out, it means nothing to them. If you expose them to the trails and to the areas, you love them. So yeah, so I'm thinking that the trails are integral to the whole thing. They're just important as everything else that goes along. Yeah, that's it for you.
All right. Thank you, Ross.
Okay.
Let's see, Sarah put a note in the chat that says, to follow up, we have not received the letter from the Board of Supervisors on the trail yet. Of course, once we receive it, we will still be incorporating that input into the project. So I will resolve to try to reach the CAO's office and see if I can't get that moving along, because I'm if that was late, yeah, we'll see what we can do about that, and figure out what the timeline is so that that can be out to Sarah and the team sooner than later. Great, thanks, Sarah. Okay, next item, moving along, new venue for TCCG meetings. So I was ruminating on this the other day, and what I realized was when I first started in to facilitation for this group, we were meeting in Weaverville at the fire hall, and we were meeting at the dining hall over at the county fairgrounds in Hayfork every other meeting. And we had really good turnouts, you know, sometimes as many as 40 or 50 people showing up at these meetings, including all the agency folks and the collaborative group itself. And so there was a recommendation that we look into potentially utilizing the supervisor's board meeting as a space. And my concern with that is that room really is, if we're hoping to have a very open dialogue about how, you know, like how we make these conversations happen, it's, you know, we're still trying to hybridize those meetings to a certain extent so that we can get the most, you know, especially agency participation as possible. The only one concern that I have with that particular room is that the only people at the dais or at the podium can actually be heard. You know, people just speaking, you know, into that room are not picked up by those microphones. And so, I have a little bit of a concern about using that space because of that, because it would necessitate a formality that this group doesn't typically adhere to. You know, as far as like needing to walk to the podium in order to be able to like be heard and have a comment, you know, then be, you know, cast out to the audience that's on Zoom. So I'm kind of reconsidering that particular instance. The room, you know, as far as other venues, the Rancheria is kind of at this point booking only single off, like one-off events up to 3 months in advance. So there's no level of consistency or easy planning for utilizing that space. So that's also a problem that I've been running into. PUD built, you know, the PUD conference room only holds about 15 people maybe, and is not an easy room to set up in as far as the hybridized, you know, part of how we're sort of doing business at this point. So it kind of, I know that the VFD fire hall, I don't know of any venues in Hayfork that can do hybridized meetings. So that one I'm not certain about at all. And then the VFD here in Weaverville, my understanding is that they've tried to get that set up, and maybe Carol can speak to that, because I've not been to any of the chief meetings. I don't know how they're actually promoting, or the logistics of actually running a hybridized meeting from that space is, but Carol, I know you're popping in and out, but I was wondering about that as a potential venue for a larger group.
Yeah, so they have the chiefs meetings, they have Zoom, and they have the microphone in the middle of the room that picks up everybody. The Zoom meetings seem to work pretty good.
Do they? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know that when we were doing, so I think how about if I look into that? Because if they've got a proof of concept and that things are working there fairly well, then I'm willing to kind of go down that road a little bit. The only other option that I really run into, or that I am entertaining, is the restoration program meeting space, because that holds about 20 people. And I know that we've had some technical difficulties there, but that was largely in part, well, it was largely caused by the fact that they have a limited Wi-Fi bandwidth in that office that all of the office people are actually utilizing. So since then, we've been continuing to have our recreation committee meetings there, and I've just been like, from a technical standpoint, I've been tethering my phone to my laptop, and we haven't really had any of those issues since that time, to the best of my knowledge, other than a few little things here and there. So that would be another alternative. But if the VFD is working, that's great. We can look into trying to do it there. I'm just sort of at we're kind of limited in the venues that have the capability to do what we really need to do and give us the options that I think at this stage need. So yes, Susan, I see your hand up.
I just wanted to say that I met with the grand jury in the supervisor's boardroom, and there are the 5 microphones on the on the stage, so to speak, the DS, and then there are 2 others on the tables surrounding, and there is a portable mic that we used. So there are some options as well there.
Okay, I have never seen a portable handheld microphone used in that space, but yeah, I knew that we had basically a total of 10 standing microphones, like the 5 on the DS, 2 on each side, as I recall, and then the one at the podium itself. So that would be a way. I mean, we could look into it and give it a try and see how it goes. I'm certainly willing to explore that. But these are the things that have been sort of like bumps in the road for me as to like how we actually accomplish this, because obviously like this group is very, it operates in a different way than those rooms are usually set up. So I appreciate that note, Susan. Thank you. Arnold, you have your hand up.
One possibility that I don't think you mentioned is the County Office of Education, where we've met sometimes. I think Monique has some experience organizing that. I've been I've been present at such meetings, and I've tried to tune in both ways. It's not perfect, but it's doable. We hold RAC meetings there, and it works.
Okay, very
pretty
good.
well.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that space. I didn't know how it was set up for doing full-blown hybridized meetings. Maybe Monique, you could add to that.
Yeah, it's been okay to use. It's actually really tough for a Forest Service person to use that space because you do have to use their Zoom login. So I mean, with RCD, that's probably fine. And all you need, it actually is free to use, from my understanding. Maybe give them a call and just double check. But they have pretty good tech setups. I can't remember how the sound is when people are speaking and if you can hear around the room. So maybe asked on that, but it was free. You just have to provide some assurance of liability
Okay.
coverage.
Yeah, no, there's
from
no.
what I recall.
So it's about the same size seating as the PUD. So, you're kind of crunched in there, I would say. Yeah, if the PUD was available, I think you can actually spread out further in the PUD meeting room.
Okay. All right, well, go ahead, Monique, sorry.
Sorry, I was just gonna add, I think my favorite room to use so far for hybrid meetings has actually been the Board of Supervisors space.
Okay, very good. Well, with the option of having a microphone, like a handheld wireless, that certainly makes it a little more palatable. I hadn't actually seen that implemented before, so I'll certainly, that gives me some options to look into. So thank you all for
I would,
the
I would definitely recommend we used to meet at the fire department all the time because we could get lots of people in there and really spread out, be around in a big circle.
Yeah.
And that's what the fire chiefs do, they can have, 25 people in there all around in the circle, and then they just have they have a pretty sophisticated microphone in the middle that picks up everybody. So that's what actually worked really well too for larger groups.
Okay, fantastic. I will reach out to them and I'll just check in with both, and we might vary the venue and try out a couple of different ones and see, which one's gonna work out best for us. And then so we'll expect that probably for the March meeting, and that's my intent, is to have a larger space for us to meet in person and hopefully encourage more in-person participation at these meetings going forward. But again, thank you very much all for the comments and the tips and the direction. I do appreciate that. All right, moving on. Wildfire camera update. Do we have anything new to report out, Jerry?
Yeah, a couple things. As we speak, Digital Path, the company that does the cameras and monitors them, is now holding 6 approved permits from the Forest Service, ready to install those 6 cameras that PG&E supports. So that'll happen as soon as roads and weather allows. Ironside Mountain, I heard that Ben reported to the supervisors that they're using an existing post there, and Forest Service is supposed to be doing a consultation with tribes. Ben, what's going on with that part?
Yeah, so the fire camera in Ironside, our heritage program staff and special use staff are chatting right now on path forward. So we had 3 options. The best options going to be utilizing Velocity's current infrastructure up there that provides Wi-Fi services to the downriver communities. That permit needs to be renewed in 2025. So as part of that renewal, the goal is to modify it to install that wildfire camera. And so yes, tribal consultation needs to take place, and they're working on that right now, and they're speaking. So fingers crossed, we can get this thing pushed through and the camera installed prior to fire season 2025. So short story, that group is discussing it, talking on a weekly basis to find the path forward. And yeah, they're working on it, Jerry. So that's good news.
Thank you. Thanks. And then some conversation has begun regarding a camera on Bonanza King, looking up towards Trinity Center. And next week is a phone call with partners. We've reached out to organizations that would be in the view shed, which includes PUD, who have a lot of lines up there, the Watershed Center because of their conservancy land holding, and someone else. SPI. So we've talked to them, and we're trying to figure out if we're looking to them to sponsor the monthly fee, which they've never done before, and neither of those organizations have done that. So we're going to have the conversation next week and see what their internal people have said about that. I just was texting with Carol. We might have the purchase of the camera covered by a Watershed Center grant. What else? So maybe those are the highlights. Carol, you want to add to that, please?
No, I think you covered it, but I wanted to take the opportunity while Thule is on the collaborative meeting to ask if that is something that the Sierra Nevada Conservancy has ever considered funding either the installation or the ongoing maintenance of a camera, because if you ever look at the map of where the wildfire cameras are in the state, northern Trinity County, southern Siskiyou County are a huge black hole. And PG&E, we're not in the PG&E service area, so they can't fund, or they've said they can't fund either the installation or the ongoing maintenance. And so just to protect the forest health up here, just the watershed issues in terms of a catastrophic fire, is that something that the Sierra Nevada Conservancy would consider?
Carol, that's a really good question. I don't think we could fund ongoing maintenance of it, but I could definitely look into like purchase and installation of such. Because we're a state agency, we have to do CEQA on any like physical implementation projects, which that would be. So we would have to make sure that it would be covered under any CEQA clearances or NEPA if it's on Forest Service lands. So yeah, let me look into it and get back to you. We don't have a current funding round right now, but we anticipate one hopefully in the next year. So let me check in and get back to you.
So a big step forward on that is that the NEPA's already been done due to another project that overlays that site.
Well,
So
it's being done. It's part of the North Trinity County Communities Risk Reduction NEPA. The scoping just ended on that, and the alert wildfire camera was part of the scoping as far as I understand. So yes, the NEPA will be done, but it might take a year or so, but at this rate, you know, if we found funding in the next year, that would be timing perfect.
Great. Let me look into not only our funding, but some other avenues and see if we can't come up with a solution. That's a great idea.
and for those folks who have been involved in the conversation, I again reached out to private funders, including the Humboldt Area Foundation, North State Community Foundation, the McConnell Foundation, and the Smullins Foundation, and they're all very positive about coming together for the purchase. They too cannot do ongoing maintenance, but and some of those folks will be at the Wednesday meeting just to get a sense of the reality of doing this. So I think that's everything on cameras for me.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jerry and Carol and Thule. That's an area that we hadn't quite explored yet. So I guess this could be a great way to get something done in that opportunity area. So that's fantastic. Thank you for looking into that.
It's really kind of pushing the organizations, you know, PUD, they have their community investment program, but that's kind of doing a project for you and giving labor and maybe materials. And we're asking now for monthly payment over and over again. And same thing with SBI and the Watershed Center. So it's kind of pushing their envelope a bit.
And if I might add, so in the short term, well, we're trying to get the camera installed on Bonanza King because it has the greatest view shed in terms of looking at fires. An alternative is the Velocity Tower just south of Trinity Center, which covers about 75% of what Bonanza King does. That camera, if we could get the funding for purchase and installation of that one, Velocity has offered to cover pretty much the operation and maintenance in terms of everything except the AI that interprets fires, smoke. So that would be much cheaper. And anyway, that's our plan B.
And just one last point as far as partners, I neglected to mention the involvement of the Trinity Center Community Services District and the Trinity Center Volunteer Fire Department are also hoping to be able to participate in the ongoing expenses.
Yeah, we're gonna sell more pancakes.
Yep, it's more big things. But at least they'll be at the table to talk.
That's great. All right.
Jerry, what is the monthly maintenance?
We think it's about 1,200 a month for 2 cameras.
Okay, thanks.
And that goes to Alert.
Yeah, Alert California.
Alert California, right? For
Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
it's hard to know every day what their name might be.
But we are talking to them about winter. So a lot of the cameras are funded monthly year round. And so up here, you can't get up to Bonanza King in the winter and it's solid snow up here. So maybe we only have to fund the actual operation of the camera for, 7 months out of the year. It's hard to tell with wildfire season, but that's one question we have is whether or not we can reduce the annual operation costs by reducing the number of months that it's actually in operation.
Yeah, that question has not flown well with Alert California.
No.
It's not their business model, of course.
Okay. Very good.
Thanks.
Thank you both. Thank you all for those updates. We're getting a little bit behind schedule, and I only am wanting to make sure that we are having these solid discussions, and I think these have been really good topics to cover today. So thank you for your patience. We're going to jump to Minersville boat ramp update. Is Sarah? Is that something you can give a quick update on?
Yeah, I can. So Minersville design revisions are still occurring based on the public comment feedback from the meeting last year. I do not have a revised design. I am hoping to see one this month from the engineer. I think I mentioned our last meeting, some of the slopes were a matter of concern for the engineer with respect to, they need to put their stamp on it. And so it has to be tip top from an engineering perspective. And so that is why this is taking longer to get the revised design back from them. And I also want to make sure that whatever we put out next best meets the needs of the public and actually addresses what we heard at the meeting. So that is the latest on mine.
Very good. Thank you very much, Sarah. Is there any questions for Sarah on that, or any need for clarification? All right, hearing none. Thank you so much, Sarah. Appreciate that. Okay, that brings us to BLM updates. Jennifer.
Hi. All right. It's good afternoon or almost afternoon, everyone. I kind of have our updates broken into fuels, forestry, and rec. So I'll run through those, and then if there are any questions at the end, let me know. So we'll start with fuels. So we have been burning in Trinity County, mostly focused on Little Browns. It's very slow going, but getting about 1 to 2 acres a day. Part of that is just been with the weather. Things were so wet, but also having some challenging times with air quality. So that project is ongoing. We have ongoing work out at Redding Indian Creek as well happening. And then we're hoping to get to the machine piles up on Oregon Mountain, but we're waiting on a smoke plan from air quality. So when that smoke plan is finally approved, we'll be looking for a window to burn there. And then as many of you may know, we did start a contractor started the Weaverville Community Forest Phase 2 mechanical work on the 13th of January. That's 154 acres of mechanical hand cutting and pile. It's happening in the community forest. We did have a incident yesterday where the contractor fell a tree across a power line, resulting in a power outage in Weaverville. So our apologies on behalf of our contractor for that. But hopefully the rest of the project will continue without incident. So that pretty much wraps up fuels. Forestry, we are continuing to work on a layout project for Jennings Ridge. Hopefully we will have a draft NEPA document in the summer. So our new forester continues to work on that. And then they're in the beginning stages of looking at a potential project in Douglas City that will also include tree thinning in both the Douglas City and Steiner campground. So they were just out yesterday on the ground, kind of starting to take a look at that project. So work continues on those couple of forestry projects in Trinity. And then for recreation, have some ongoing work in the campgrounds. Hopefully we will start work on the Steiner campground project this kind of coming spring/summer to really get that campground developed from the non-pay campground that it was to a more formalized campground. So that is the goal. And then also the Junction City campground will have work done on its water system this year to get that back to where we'll have potable water in Junction City. And then I am happy to announce that we will be piloting a reservation system in rec.gov, fingers crossed for this campground season, where we will take only Douglas City campground and we will put about half of the sites as the goal in rec.gov this year to allow for reservations. We'll leave the other half of the sites open for first come, first serve, so that we know there's a lot of people who have been routine users of the Douglas City campground. So we don't want to spring kind of last minute the fact that it's now a reservation system. But we're hoping to move eventually to a full reservation system in the campgrounds there to maybe help alleviate some of the longer term camping issues we're seeing. And then last but not least, we are continuing work with the UROC on the West Weaver Creek restoration project that they have ongoing. We are supposed to see a copy of the draft NEPA document in the next couple of weeks. So should be out for public comment, I would guess, in the next month or two once we get through a draft. And that's it for me. I see that Arnold has a question.
Jennifer, last time nobody, including you, knew where Jennings Ridge was. Have you, and I still don't know, have you made any progress on discovering that?
Yeah, I think I shared a map last time. So I will dig that map back out and drop it back in the chat. So I can do that for you, but I'll dig the map back out from my notes and drop it in the chat today.
Great.
It's out in the, as I recall, it's out in the Deadwood area.
Yep.
To the east and north of Lewiston.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Trinity River Lumber folks.
Jennifer,
yes.
could I make a comment? Jennifer, I want to say we're really happy about the work that's being done, fuel reduction work along Indian Creek Road and Redding Creek Road. And also, I know the UROCs are interested in doing another project on Indian Creek below the bridge. Are you working with them at all on that?
Yeah, so we were out actually on the ground a few weeks ago to take a look at, they did that, what they're calling that phase, the phase 1 stage 0 project that they did. It's been a couple of years now, and then they went back in and redid some more work earlier this year. So we took a look at that project, and they're wanting to do another one, south of the bridge, but it's very, very early on in planning. We just kind of chatted real briefly with them about the fact that they want to do that, but haven't gotten kind of any farther in discussions in that.
Okay, well, I've talked with them about that project, given them access through my property. And I've told them that I want to be involved in all aspects of that because it's adjacent and part of it is on my property.
Got you. Okay. Yeah, I'll make sure that Alden's in the loop on that. But yeah, we're, like I said, we, didn't talk very in depth. They just said we want to do something on the south side of the bridge.
Thank you.
No problem.
Very good. I'm sorry, the folks from Trinity River Lumber, somebody there ran, or somebody else have a
Yeah,
comment?
this is Tyler. I just had a quick, on Oregon Mountain, the machine piling and the hand piling, that was done this last summer. You're waiting on the smoke management plan. If that got approved, would the plan be to accomplish the burning this spring, or as soon as the smoke management plan was approved, or would that be something that you guys would put off till next fall, or this fall, I guess would be the appropriate term.
I
But
think my
just curious.
understanding is that if, once the smoke management plan is approved, that they want to at least try to get to the machine piles.
Okay.
Is their intent.
Okay.
Wonderful. Anything else for Jennifer and BLM?
And I'll follow up on that map, and I'll drop that in the chat, or send an email, Kelly, if I don't get it before the call's over.
Yeah, if you want to send it to me, then I can get it out to the group. That'd be great.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks,
Thank-
everyone.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Excellent. Moving on, we're going to U.S. Forest Service updates. We'll start out with Six Rivers. Adam, are you still with us?
Yeah, I still am. Sorry, I was having a hard time finding the camera button. All right, so for Mad River, this is going to be kind of fuels and fire centric. I didn't get a whole lot of feedback from the other shops on the district, so just bear with me on this. But just wanted to go over a few of our accomplishments for this year, since we were in the new year and we've got, everything finally tidied up for FY24, and just wanted to let everyone know that made some pretty big progress this last year. It doesn't seem like a whole lot, and I know compared to like the Shasta Trinity, acreage is not going to be as much, but we're in the rebuilding phase, especially with a lot of the August and Ruth complex areas. So we were able to achieve 93 acres of pile burning this year, which is more than double what was accomplished in FY23. So a lot of good work went into that. And that was mostly in the August complex footprint. So a lot of that is restoration work, but a lot of big machine piles, and our crews and some of our burn bosses really got after it. Especially, it was 93 acres in 11 days. So pretty good work on their part. They did an awesome job. And I think I might have covered this before, but we were awarded some RAP funds, which is the watershed restoration action planning. We were awarded I think it was 1.45 million over for the phase 2 of the fuels reduction portion of the August complex restoration, and IRSC funding. So we're anticipating that to begin probably end of this year, more likely 2026, but we'll stand by for that. I don't know if I've covered this, but we did also submit a community wildfire risk reduction plan or program, partner matchmaking proposal for County Road 502, the Ruthenia Road, for hazard tree abatement and fuels reduction in that corridor. Again, especially after the August complex. It'd be 754 acres is what we'd be looking at for basically creating a shaded fuel break off of County Road 502. Anywhere from the Xenia store, Xenia Guard Station, through Hettenshaw Valley, and then over to Ruth Lake. So that whole section of 502. We're waiting to hear back on that, which should be coming out hopefully in the next month or so. Some of our other major accomplishments, which I've always thought it was super cool, but the fact that we're the only district on the Six Rivers that has been loaned a air curtain burner from CAL FIRE. Our equipment operators have been doing an amazing job utilizing the air curtain burner for disposal of brush and large timber that otherwise would be a burn pile. So we've been disposing a lot of material in the air curtain burner, and now it's over at the Ruth Guard Station, and we're pulling material down from the first 48 project area and disposing in there. But this summer, we ran the air curtain burner for over 30 days on PAL or project activity level days of C or higher, which are, high risk fire days. Ran it. I don't exactly have the tonnage that we were able to dispose of, but no unintended fire incidents out of that. And our equipment operator, Jay Dillon, and one of our other equipment operators, Dimitri, did an excellent job keeping that thing going and disposing of material at a pretty constant rate. So that was a big accomplishment for us. The Watershed Center, which hopefully I'm not going to steal their thunder if Randy's on, but we did get 271 acres. Well, they got 271 acres accomplished for us of fuel treatments on the Mad Ridge fuel break, which runs roughly from the district office on Highway 36 all the way down to the south end of the district near the Mad River watershed. So like I said, 271 acres, and I'd have to look how many piles they made for us, but they made a bunch, which is going to be fun to get to in the next year or so. And through their efforts, we were able to accomplish 332 acres of habitat restoration through those fuel treatments. So pretty big bonus for the wildlife folks. And right now, the big thing, and the scoping letter just went out, I believe. I saw an email the other day for the South Fork Mountain Project. So yeah, all right, cool. Everybody saw that. Otherwise, I was prepared to drop that in the chat. And if anybody does need it, I'd be happy to go ahead and provide that, or at least the announcement, I believe. So I don't know if it's the actual scoping letter, but it's the most up-to-date information I have for it. But on the South Fork Mountain Project, just on Mad River, we're going to be treating 2,300 acres, give or take, of that will be just devoted to fuels treatments, which is out of the 7,800 acres, I believe, is the total project area for the veg management project between fuels, commercial thinning, and other silviculture activities. And then this year, our big plan is to get the D70 unit burned, finishing up the burn plan, should have that approved. It's going to be a type 2 burn, and it is going to be bordering and partially in the Mad Ridge fuel break footprint, just south of our district office on 36 and the 1N03 road, I believe, but too many Forest Service road numbers. But that'll be 70 acres, 5 separate units. Not sure if we're going to burn it in one day. May take a couple days to burn those, but that'll be a pretty big accomplishment for the district, since we haven't been able to get any jackpot or understory burning done in quite a few years. So looking forward to less pile burning, getting some more landscape or understory burning in, and then hopefully continuing on from there. But on that note, we're going to be re-engaging in a lot of work in the first 48 project area, which does tie in to the South Fork Mountain Project, or where the South Fork Mountain Project will be. And that's roughly in the Ruth Store area, and then goes up South Fork Mountain and hits the ridgeline at one point. But that's another linear treatment that we're going to get back into, kind of expand some of our work through different fuels management activities. And one of the things that we're excited about is hopefully getting some oak woodland restoration burning done in that area, because there are some areas that definitely need it. And that is about all I have. And I see Larry has his hand up, and I'll take questions if anybody has any.
Yeah, I've been trying to get a hold of Kristen Lark since I got a copy of the map and the scoping notice a week ago or so, and I have been unable to get a hold of her. I have some questions about the project. I noticed on the south side of Highway 36 along the ridgetop, you guys are just staying right along the roadway, but north of 36, it's not just along the roadway, you're going off into the landscape. And I'm just curious what the criteria was for the areas that you're going way away from the roadway?
That's honestly, that's a good question, Larry. To the best of my knowledge, I was told that we may be, I'm not really sure what the units are going to look like north of 36. I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm not sure. I haven't been super involved with a lot of the scoping. So I'm getting into that now that I've got a bunch of projects, but I can't answer that fully what the rationale is. But I know that everything south of 36, that's going to be, I know a lot of that is focused on restoration in the August and Ruth complex areas. But Kristen has been out for about a week now, which is why I'm on here. But if you'd like, I can definitely pass on or just let her know, like, hey, these are some of the questions I answered, and I'd be happy to have her get with you when she's back in next week.
Yeah, no, and the write-up of, the scoping write-up sounds like what we've been talking about for years. So that all sounds good. It just seemed odd that, like I said, there was some areas north of 36 where you were going way off the roadway, and uh, I didn't know what the criteria was for that.
Yeah, let me look more into it, and when Kristen gets back to you, hopefully I can have a better answer for you as well, especially from the fuel side of things.
Excellent. Thank you.
No problem. And Jerry.
Yeah, Adam, you mentioned a burn. You said it's a type 2 burn. I just don't know what that means. Type 2.
Yeah, no problem. So I apologize for that. That's kind of that's a Forest Service and a Forest Service
I'm sure,
fire
right.
type thing. So our lower complexity burns are considered type 3 burns. So any of our pile burns, most of our pile burns are considered type 3 burns. And then the next level of complexity being moderate complexity is a type 2 burn, which is going to be anything that involves a decent amount of personnel, larger acreage, anything that's near wildland urban interface, which this one will be because it's going to be just upslope on Mad Ridge from the Van Dusen community, the Southern Trinity School, and I believe it's the We Care medical clinic. So it kind of bumps the complexity up a little bit. So
thank you.
It's actually pretty exciting.
I bet all those people are pretty excited.
I hope so. We're trying to do some outreach here and there, but it's going to look great when it's done. There's been a lot of treatment that's been done in there since I believe 2019. It was commercially thin from below. It's been masticated at least twice to keep the brush response down. And now we're going to go in there and we're going to clean some of that deadened down material up and hopefully it's going to come back looking really good. And we're anticipating doing that, shooting for May, but we'll see what the weather brings for us.
Great, thanks.
Absolutely.
Adam, you mentioned the air curtain burner. Obviously, there's been a lot of interest in potentially getting those, getting something like that, in use on this side of the hill. Just out of curiosity, are you guys actually mobilizing that? Do you take it to the fuels, or is it mostly being trucked into a specific central location?
So that's a great question. Our equipment operator, Jay Dillon, he's a phenomenal equipment operator. I mean, he can do a lot of really cool things. He's actually mobilizing it. I haven't seen him put on the little training, but he's actually kind of a subject matter expert, and CAL FIRE and a few of the Forest Service units in Southern California, I can't remember which one in particular, they've actually had him come down because he's come up with some innovative ways to move it around by lowboy, and how he moves it around with the heavy equipment. It's pretty impressive. So to answer your question, most of the year it's been over near the Mad River District office, and we've been bringing a lot of the material to it. It depends on the conditions of the road and the project area. But especially now with the weather conditions, we've just moved it to the Ruth station. And so we are trucking a lot of that via dump truck or stake bed from the project area down to Ruth. And also I forgot to mention the public firewood. We are trying to restock that at Ruth as we bring material down. So I'm not sure what its status is right now, but I know that we're definitely trying to get it restocked now that winter's here and as time allows.
Great.
Go ahead, Larry.
Thank you. Larry.
Yeah, I just Jay Dillon is amazing. I've seen he fabricates implements for his equipment to facilitate doing some of this stuff. Like he's got the best brush loader I've ever seen, but he made it himself. So it's pretty
Yep.
impressive.
Yeah, no, I mean it's amazing. An like a good equipment operator, it's phenomenal to watch them work because it's like they can do surgery on a person just with a front end loader or a backhoe. It's awesome, and he's definitely one of those guys. So yeah, big kudos to him. He's kind of the unsung hero of our fuels program on the district.
Awesome. All right. Anything else for Adam and the Six Rivers? Hearing none. Thank you so much, Adam. That was a great report out.
Thank y'all.
Excellent. Okay, on to Sarah in the Shasta Trinity National Recreation Area. Any general updates for us, Sarah?
Yeah, absolutely. So just a couple things on the overall North Trinity County Risk Reduction Project. Firstly, thanks everyone so much for your comments. We're still compiling, analyzing, considering those in terms of what our overall response to those is going to be. But I just want you to know I appreciate that there was a little bit of confusion with the timeline on when they were due. So I did make the decision to extend the timeline out to January 3rd. Hopefully that helps everyone feel comfortable that they had the time they needed to get their comments in. But also want to emphasize that this is not the this is not the last bite at the apple in terms of collaboration, engagement. It's really just the official, beginning of the process. But we're going to be continuing to collaborate with y'all throughout the whole project, and it's an ongoing conversation. Just a couple of points from what I have seen so far. There was some requests for additional details. Scoping is really kind of early project stuff, and I understand that the Forest Service has a history of perhaps providing more detailed prescriptions in our scoping documents in the past. So we're always trying to strike a balance between level of detail and kind of openness to input and collaboration. And one thing that we had heard a lot before was we don't want the Forest Service to have the project decided on before we get that input. And so we wanted to make it really clear that we haven't decided on what this project is going to be, and that we want to hear from folks about what they want to see in the project. And so maybe that means that on that balance of level of detail versus openness to input, we didn't quite hit the mark. But I want you to know that we're not done yet. We're still going to keep having these conversations, developing the prescriptions, and doing that all in collaboration. So it's not like we're going to go into a vacuum in our hidey hole and then surprise you with something. We're gonna have more field trips. We're gonna have more meetings and more details to share once we absorb some of what the comments are saying. And then some also concerns about the timeline came through, and I wanted to make it clear that the Trinity Lake transition is not what is driving the timeline, and it's more of the overall pace and scale that the Forest Service is trying to achieve with treatment within our wildfire crisis strategy landscapes, as well as some federal government-wide changes to NEPA that mandate quicker timelines for our projects. And so those are not just like Shasta Trinity, those are not just Forest Service, those are federal government wide that we are looking at now in terms of how we manage our time. But regardless of any kind of timeframes that we're stuck to, we're still going to be working hand in hand with the collaborative and with our partners to help make this project something that can be successful. Let's see. Also wanted to just clarify real quickly the emergency action determination. So there were some concerns about not having additional input due to that. What the emergency action determination does is for the pieces of the project that fall under that, which are mostly the fuels pieces of the project, it does remove the objection period, which is after the draft DA, but before the decision. But it does not remove a comment period on the draft DA. So we still have an additional, for all the fuel stuff, the additional minimum, like 30-day public comment period that will occur once we have written the EA, which has not happened yet. And then there would still be an objection period for all of the suites of the project that do not fall under fuels. And so that's what folks can expect from official public comment periods going forward. But again, this is going to be a topic that I will continue to share information on as it develops at our collaboratives, that we will continue to have field trips around to look at prescriptions, to look at what the collaborative and community want to see out in the national forest system, and continue to work together on. So I just want to emphasize it's the beginning of the conversation, but we're not done. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Any questions or comments for Sarah?
Yeah, I got a couple questions.
Tyler, go ahead.
So, just curious about the campground sale. I think the KOA portion of that is finished. Was that a success? I mean, is there any feedback on how that logging went, or community members? Is there plans to remove that fuel up there at a certain time or burn it? I'm just curious about that. And then I don't know if I think we were the mill was expecting
I'm in a meeting
campground
until about 1
a
o'clock,
campground
and then I'll
sale
take a look at it.
yearly, and I was wondering if that was in the works for another campground sale, or if you could elaborate on timing of another campground sale.
I mean, I'm certainly curious about the collaborative's perspectives on what success looks like. I think that we determine that together. I don't determine that on my own. I appreciate that as far as the campground work and that Trinity Camps project, which is a different project, that they were able to complete a lot of the airport work to get the Trinity Center Airport back into compliance with FAA regulations and requirements. I believe the Hayward Flat portion, the kind of first campground entry is in addition to KOA, is going to be taking place later this year, in the late summer or early fall, to be determined there. And then the one after that, Tannery, which would occur only after going in and looking at Hayward with the collaborative, is next on the kind of list in terms of implementation for Trinity Camps. So the further implementation of Trinity Camps beyond Tannery will be led by the Trinity River Management Unit. And so that kind of out year schedule is going to be moving to their program of work, and is going to be something they're determining going forward. So I can't fully get into the out year piece of it because it's no longer going to be in my jurisdiction.
Oh, all right.
Okay. I saw Larry's hand up. Did you rescind your comment?
Carol had her hand up before me.
Okay, very good. Carol.
Okay, so yeah, I think the airport part looks good. We just had some questions about the huge piles of slash that are left, which is probably what Tyler's also asking about. But and so my question at the recreation committee meeting was beyond the timber sales, the Forest Service has had some, I guess, paid fee for service kind of work. The total landscape, whatever they are, that private contractor doing fuels reduction around Ridgeville, which people were very happy with. The local residents called me and said they liked what was being done. But now I'm getting questions about where that fee for service kind of work is gonna move next, scheduling wise. Do you know where they're gonna move next as part of Trinity Camps?
So I don't know that, but I'm sure that Tim Ritchie does, and I can ask him because it's not just Trinity Camps that was included under that fee for service contract for, since I don't have the term on the top of my head, but yeah, I can find that out and get back to you, Carol,
That would
in
be
terms
great.
of where
Thank
they're
you.
going next.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Great. Larry.
Yeah, I gotta speak up on this because, I've been involved in public processes with the Forest Service for about 50 years now, and this is a very clunky public process that you've brought forward here, and it seems like the cart's in front of the horse on this. It seems to me that there should have been an agreement about what process you were going to use to achieve your goals before you scoped it. But and now you've, with the emergency declaration, the only choice anybody has who doesn't agree with your process is to go to court, and that's unfortunate.
Well, we haven't submitted the emergency action determination yet. Like that has not occurred. We haven't submitted the request for that. We wanted to disclose to the public that we were considering asking for that to expedite the work. That may not be something we ultimately ask for authorization for, but it may be. So that's why we wanted to disclose that early and upfront.
But that's not what the scoping letter indicates. It kind of says you're following this process. That's a little confusing. That you haven't even asked for it yet.
You have to, we haven't requested it yet. That's correct. At this point, we intend to, if it is something that our regional office will support. I anticipate we're going to be seeing a lot of changes in the next 6 months to a year to our overall processes, but I can't speculate on what those will be.
Okay.
I guess my point was, wouldn't it be better to get public consensus about what the project is and going to accomplish before you move forward? Then there wouldn't be the risk of there even being an objection.
I hope we can still do that as part of the overall process. I don't think that we are precluding that as an option in terms of working towards consensus, working collaboratively. We're going to have the same amount of field trips, engagement, public comment with our draft EA. If it seems like we're not getting to that consensus or shared vision as we go through the process, then yeah, that will raise some questions and concerns for me and for the rest of forest leadership. But I guess I don't see them as mutually exclusive.
But are you gonna apply for the emergency action determination before you do all the field trips and trying to get consensus?
To be honest, I still need some more guidance from our regional office about the emergency action determination process. So this is one of those ones that is a national kind of wildfire crisis strategy, overall Forest Service emphasis area that we are trying to consider the condition of our forests an emergency and therefore expedite using all of the tools in our toolkit to do that. But I don't know when exactly in our process we have to submit that in order to have it cascade through. I just know that we're not quite there yet. I hope that answers that question.
Okay. Any other comments for Sarah? All right, hearing none. Thank you so much, Sarah. Greatly appreciate your time and entertaining all these conversations. I think this has been, I want to do a time check because we're getting very close to noon. And I know that we had a very ambitious ambitious agenda today, so I wanted to check in before we jumped into Shasta Trinity, to see if there was anybody that couldn't go a little bit longer and needed to hop in here. All right,
Hey.
hearing none. I'm sorry.
No, it's just me, Kelly. I was just gonna say I have a 12 o'clock
Okay, well,
deadline.
you're up. So you want to jump in, Ben?
Yeah, so
It can be brief.
Almost good afternoon. I will be brief. Some of my topics have already been discussed earlier in the meeting, so I'll just highlight a few things. Tara Jones is back on the district from her detail in Lassen National Forest. She'll be back in the office next week after the holiday. So great to have Tara back. The High and Palm Draft EA is out for public comment. Hopefully everybody has received that notification and where to find that online. So just a reminder that's out for 30 days. And then our team will start working on the comments. The TRMU continues pile burning. We've done a lot of pile burning over the course of the fall and winter. Currently, we're working in the Trinity Dam Boulevard, going north up to the road that goes up to Trinity Helibase and the CAL FIRE camp. We got about just about 200 acres in there of piles to burn. So we're continuing with that. We're not burning today or over the weekend. North Coast Air Quality District has not issued any smoke numbers due to the stable atmosphere, the nice weather we're enjoying right now. Unfortunately, nice weather equals poor smoke dispersion, and that's not good for us. Once we're back in a burn window, the South Fork and Trinity River Management Units will continue pile burning. Due to the nicer weather, conditions are drying out enough to where we might be looking at doing an understory burn in the Weaverville area in the next couple weeks. So that's great. That's great news. Knocking out more acres for community risk reduction from a wildland fire event. A good chunk of our fire workforce and equipment are down in Southern California assisting with those wildfires over the last week and a half to 2 weeks. I would expect that assistance to continue. Southern California is expecting another very strong Santa Ana wind next week around the 21st. So based on any new events or fires down there and strain on the fire organization, that will probably dictate on whether or not we're going to burn up here. So it's a dance between assisting the state and other federal agencies in fire suppression response and being able to accomplish some burn acres up here in the North State while we have the wetter conditions up here. We're working with the Watershed Center on the South Fork Motorized Trail project. The Watershed Center has a lead for NEPA on that. The hurdle we're trying to get over right now is working with the Watershed Center to complete the heritage aspect of that project. So we have an ambitious goal to get that done before some of the grant funding expires. So fingers crossed on that one. WCF Phase 2 on the Forest Service side. We have come up with a plan for the heritage surveys for that project that has been held up for a while now because of not so great reports from external entities that we have contracted with. So game plan moving forward, which should be implemented in February, would be we're gonna gather up archaeologists from the Shasta Tree National Forest and probably some of our neighboring national forests, and we're gonna throw a bunch of archaeologists out there, conduct the surveys with Forest Service folks, and do the report writing with Forest Service folks, just so we know the product we're developing, and that should make a much smoother process, a much quicker process, and just get that WCF Phase 2 knocked out here shortly over the next couple months. A few things I just want to put on everybody's radar. Northwest Forest Plan Amendment Revision. There is a public meeting January 23rd in Reading, open to the public. Not sure if everybody's received that message, but that message is out there. It's all over social media. I know our PIOs have sent that out to everybody. So just a reminder, Northwest Forest Plan Revision / Amendment, public meeting, January 23rd in Reading at Shasta College. I believe it's from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And then one last thing to share with everybody, due to the atmospheric river storms we had during November, December of 2024, as our folks come back from vacation over the holidays, we're starting to find a lot of road damage. So we're starting to collect those photos and those reports from our staff to build a case to get some funding from the regional office or even the Washington office. So it would be great if you or you have someone you know that are out venturing into the woods and driving Forest Service roads and come across road damage, please report that back to us. We have a little app we're using to collect all that information so we can build a package and receive some hopefully funding to get those roads fixed. So there's numerous roads damaged right now because of atmospheric river conditions that we experienced the last 2 months of 2024. Other than that, I'll keep it short and sweet. Thanks for having me. Any questions?
Any questions for Ben? I do have a couple, Ben. I didn't see, normally I get notifications for, like, say the request for comments for High Palm and whatnot. Could that be sent to me so I could get that out to the group? Because I didn't.
Yeah, let me send you the so it's also in the Trinity Journal and Record Searchlight. But let me forward you the email, Kelly, so you can forward it out to you, because in the letter there'll be a hyperlink you guys can click on to go to the website page.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep, that'd be perfect. That'd be great. And then this road damage, where are you guys seeing a lot of that damage?
Between basically an area from like High and Palm over to Big Bar. So I would say like our far western edge of the districts, and not to speak for the Six Rivers, but I'm guessing if we're seeing it on our far western edge, that far eastern edge of the Six Rivers, as they start having folks come back and get out into the woods, I would expect to hear from them reporting some damage to their roads as well. So yeah, that general location.
Okay, I know that we still have money to be working in that area for doing road work. It's mitigation money from the Caltrans to do work on forest roads. I'll pass that along to Cynthia Tarwater and make sure that she's got that in her radar to be looking at that stuff when she gets back from Florida.
Okay, yeah, and I know our staff is always talking to her, so some of the damage is quite significant, and it's going to take some backing from either the RO or WO for that funding to fix those roads.
Yeah.
Pelichu Ridge Road, which is the only access to the west of High and Palm, is completely out.
Yeah, yeah, that's an impressive slide right there. I've seen those pictures.
All right. Great. Well, thank you so much, Ben. Greatly appreciate the report out.
Thank you.
All right. Moving along. Carol, is there anything else from the Recreation Committee that we wanted to include in our partner updates?
I think we've covered all the issues. I just wanted to give a plug for Ascend Wilderness. They gave an impressive program coming up this summer with all their all their work that they're going to be doing up in the Alps and everywhere. So Ascend Wilderness was just amazing, their report out. That's all I had.
Great. Thank you, Carol. Yes, I agree. they're really ramping up and doing a lot of great work up there. So I'm glad somebody's been able to like focus and have the wherewithal to get funding to do all that work. It's been fantastic to hear about all that. Okay, moving on. RCD, Shay, could you give us a little rundown on what we've got going on? You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. Yep.
I think this is my first collaborative meeting. So hi, my name's Shay Callan. I'm the new program manager that took over for Bethany. So yeah, I was originally a project coordinator here, but in Bethany's absence, I've stepped up. So hopefully I get to meet all of you in person one day for the field trip. But yeah, until then. So for just January, we rehired our crews back, and they're working doing thinning and piling in the Shasta Springs area, so like the Shasta Springs Trail on State Lands Commission property, and they're also helping partners burn like BLM in Little Browns right now. We hope to continue helping burning as long as the smoke and weather allows for that. We also have contractors working in Reading Indian Creek on BLM land, so thanks for the comments, Kenneth, on that. We also have some contractors working in the Pettyjohn area by Tannery, and they should be done with some of those units. This is sitting and piling. Sitting and piling those units hopefully this week. For the Trinity County Hazardous Fuels Reduction Project through the McConnell Foundation, I think bids for that were closed next week on the 21st, so hopefully there'll be a contractor slated for that work on the 23rd. And then FEMA will hopefully pass the environmental on that project, hopefully this month. So hopefully work can get started on that this spring. There's also some planning work happening in Lewiston behind the subdivision on BOR land. We're just waiting for some NEPA approval for that. There's also some planning for some work downriver in the Salyer neighborhoods, but that is still in the early stages. But that will hopefully also be happening this spring. And I think that's it for me. If anyone has any questions.
Excellent. Anything for Shay? Great. Thank you, Shay, very much. I'm going to add a couple little items. Our stewardship modification that added funding for the Weaverville fuel break project has been executed. So we're excited to have the opportunity to continue to serve the forest with regard to the wildfire crisis strategy funding that they're working with. We spoke with Ben Sundahl earlier this week and talked about some prioritization because we had pivoted towards doing a CE level partner-led NEPA for the access roads to the Trinity Alps, and we're looking at all the roads that pretty much are from roughly Stewart's Fork all the way up to Scott Mountain. So it covers a lot of various areas, but they're very much complementary to some of the other projects that we've been working on. He gave us direction that he wanted to see the Weaverville Community Forest Phase 2 NEPA completed, which they're expecting to have final surveys done on this spring and a decision by sometime later in the summer or early fall. So we're going to be focusing, instead of on the Weaverville Community Forest, Weaverville Fuel Break partner-led NEPA will be working in the North Lake area on the Alps access project through the bulk of this year. And so to that end, we will be proposing a pre-scoping field tour when we have access to some of these areas, and once we have people working on sort of assessing the road situation up there now, knowing that there's a certain level of limited access due to snow and the winter weather conditions. So we'll be sort of playing it a little bit by ear. We were hoping potentially to get out for pre-scoping either on the April field tour or June at the very latest for that particular project. So we'll see how our weather develops and the snow load provides us opportunities to get up there within the next couple of months. I also wanted to report out that I've been working with the North Coast RCD Collaborative, which is a regional group that we are a part of with 10 other RCDs ranging everywhere from Marin all the way up into Siskiyou County. And we have a State Coastal Conservancy award, a block grant that they awarded us with for $6 million, of which we are currently working on developing a plan for prioritization and capacity building for some of the districts that don't have as much of a forest health program to speak of at this point. And we're looking at working with some specific projects and organizations to provide capacity, sort of like and some funding for doing work such as the Weaverville Fire Protection District does here and in Lewiston, doing defensible space. I think they work in Douglas City, Lewiston, Weaverville, and I'm not sure to what other extent, but hopefully providing some of the, but we want to look at some of the VFDs that are down in southern Trinity, and we're talking with Xenia Kettenpalm, for example, and Southern Trinity VFD for doing a similar program. So we intend to use some of that funding through SCC to get some of that work accomplished, as well as one of our other priority projects, which currently is Hubble Dump. So we're expecting to have that process sort of identified with budgets and agreements in place with work hopefully to start on some of those projects in the early, mid to late spring this year. Let's see, what else we got going on? I think just for the sake of time, I'll go ahead and hold with any other specific comments and try and get a little bit more robust report out when we get to May or March rather. Yeah, Carol.
Well, just two things quickly. One is Trinity Center would like to be included in any project like Weaverville or Lewiston does with their fuel reduction for seniors and disabled folks. We get a lot of requests there, but no, we don't have any funding.
Yeah, absolutely. We intend to reach out to all the VFDs throughout the county, and whoever has capacity to be able to like assist us in getting some of that work done, we intend to work with. So that's going to be a global inquiry when we get to that point. So yes, I see no problem with that.
Okay, and the second thing is, you know, the county has been contacting us regarding Hubble Dump, that they're trying to arrange for the fire departments as part of training to burn the current piles that are there. And so we've been telling them, can't burn the current piles until the surrounding forest fuel reduction project has been done. So just letting you know, we need, you know, it would be great to get that done.
Yep, it's top of our list. So as soon as we have our internal, prioritization and all that, and mostly it's just getting our agreements in order because it's being hosted by the Humboldt County RCD as the fiscal sponsor. Once we allegedly our agreement with them for this work is supposed to be coming out a little bit later this month. So with the budgets that we'll be working out over the next week or so. So we should know a little bit more about the timeline closer to the end of this month.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions or other comments for the RCD? Hearing none, we'll move on to the Watershed Research and Training Center. Xander, are you still there?
Yeah. I'll try and keep it quick so folks can get to lunch. Essentially, all of the specialist reports with the Bowerman project have been submitted to our federal counterparts at the supervisor's office in Reading. And so now those are undergoing the top level review, and they're essentially in their final form. I know the wildlife side, Fish and Wildlife Service is poised to start the 30-day process of their review regarding the project. So it's getting close in the final stages of Bowerman. We are on the planning side, refocusing again on the Junction City Community Wildfire Risk Reduction Project planning. We had a few setbacks on that, and so scoping, I think, is still a month or two out. For that, I understand some folks in the Forestry and Fuels program with the watershed just submitted a CAL FIRE Forest Health Grant proposal focused on some of the downriver communities that could complement the NIFWIF funding for areas in the Knob Fire footprint by Sawyer, as well as some of the private lands around there. And then I believe could also be used to help implement the Six Rivers New Fire and Fuels EA. Aside from that, a lot of our folks are in the midst of hiring seasonal technicians. And aside from that, does anyone have questions?
Anything for Xander in the Watershed Center? Okay, hearing none. Thank you very much, Xander. Appreciate the update. All right, let's see, moving on. Christine Jordan, do you have anything for us from Fish and Wildlife side of things?
I do. Good afternoon, everybody. I do have an unstable internet connection, so hopefully everybody can hear me okay.
We do.
Great, thanks, Kelly. So just a few listing updates for folks. The monarch butterfly and Suckley's cuckoo bumblebee are currently proposed listed species. The comment period for monarch closes on March 12th, 2025. And it has proposed critical habitat in Marin south to Santa Barbara. So no critical habitat proposed in our neck of the woods. But if folks are interested in reading the proposed listing rule or comment period information, I can certainly share that, those links with you, Kelly, to get out to the group. And then Suckley's cuckoo bumblebee is proposed endangered, and that comment period ends February 18th, 2025. We have been working, basically it's called Small C consultation with Bree Tiffany from Bubwa and Associates, and Xander from the Watershed Center has been joining us in those conversations, discussing the Hyampom Valley Cal VTP project that is going to hopefully address fuels reduction on about 20,300 acres of private property near the Hyampom community. There is a federal nexus for a small part of that project, but we've basically been providing recommendations to minimize impacts to northern spotted owl as well as northwestern pond turtle there. And then Xander did mention we are getting close to starting our consultation, like our 30-day process for Bowerman. I have not seen the request yet for consultation, but we do have a final agreed to biological assessment, and it was a good process to work through with Xander and folks with the forest on that. And then we're continuing to work with the Shasta Trinity on the North Trinity fuels reduction project and Big Ranch in our early involvement. We've gotten quite a bit of habitat typing work done with folks from the NRA on North Trinity. And we had several field trips planned in December and late November for Big Ranch, but unfortunately weather affected those. So we're hoping to get out as early as we can with folks to look at some conditions and owl sites and habitat in Big Ranch to start having some pointed conversations about treatments. And then we have just started working with the Forest Service's regional office on a prescribed fire project that encompasses the entirety of the Klamath National Forest and the Shasta Trinity National Forest. I'm not sure if Ben Sundall has briefed folks on that in the past or Sarah, but just for your information. And then Ben also did mention this, the larger picture of Fish and Wildlife Service involvement that affects us locally is the Northwest Forest Plan Amendment. I've been part of a level 1 consultation team since last April, meeting frequently with the Forest Service level 1 team counterparts on all of the pieces that are needed for the consultation. And we have done a preliminary review of the draft EIS and the Fish and Wildlife Service, both Region 1 and our region, Region 8, will be submitting early comments to them on the draft EIS and concerns, and then we'll be submitting another round of comments by the March 17th due date. So those are my fairly quick updates. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them. And then Kelly, I can send you the listing information to share out with folks if there's interest.
Yes, please do. That'd be great. Anything for Christine? Okay, hearing none. Thank you so much for that report, Christine. Appreciate you making the time. I wanted to give, let's see. I wanted to give, I know that Tuli, she introduced herself earlier, give her a little bit of space if there was anything else that she might want to report to this group as you're now beginning to have an understanding of how we're working and what our focuses are and all that. But if you have anything else to report to this group, that'd be great.
Thanks, Kelly. I appreciate it. In the interest of time, I'll keep it super brief. I'd love to give a bigger update in the future. We don't really have any substantial updates right now, besides the fact that, as mentioned earlier, we are largely a state agency, largely a funding and convening entity. We're basically here to help support you all. One of our big initiatives is really pushing forward the governor's initiative and the wildfire task force initiative to reach a million acres a year of forest resilience work across California. Our agency in that regard largely supports folks like you guys working on the ground, the agency folks working on projects in moving that forward and helping fund that and finding additional avenues of funding to push all initiatives forward. We also have a small funding program in recreation and one in land conservation. So although our agency's been around for 20 years, we've only been able to work in the Upper Trinity watershed for the last 2 years. So it's really fun to get to engage in Trinity County. And I apologize, I haven't sat in on these collaborative meetings sooner, but yeah, as mentioned earlier, I have a big geography to cover, but I'll put a few resources in the chat for you guys, and feel free to look at our website, sierranevada.ca.gov, and reach out to me with anything you need in the meantime. But looking forward to engaging a lot more, learning a lot more. And as we roll out funding programs in the next year, we'll be in touch for sure. Love to help work on project development early, just to get the best projects possible and support the region as makes sense to all the partners in the region. So thank you. Any questions? Happy to answer them.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tuli. Anything for Tuli? Okay, not at this time. We'll make sure to get you like your own little slot here in our other items and partner updates for the future, Tuli, because we do appreciate working with you and have really appreciated, like our organization has had some Sierra Nevada Conservancy projects and worked with your team and got some funding. So we're very appreciative of having this more direct connect. So thank you so much. Appreciate that. All right, on to concluding business. We'll try and get this wrapped up. Facilitation team, this may be a bigger topic that I just wanted to plant a seed for. Jill Cox, Supervisor District 1, has a fairly strong working relationship with Rachel Berkey specifically, and she has requested whether or not we might be able to potentially change our day of the week that we have our meetings, because she'd like to be more involved with this group. She expressed to me that while Heidi is currently our representative and has a natural, resources kind of history and background, she feels like with the work that she's doing on behalf of the county and with a lot of our partners at that level, that she would be able to contribute a lot more. Fridays just simply do not work for her. So I don't know that we necessarily need to do anything about this right now. I think I want to bring it back as a separate topic, kind of going forward. But I wanted to bring that up to people to really kind of ruminate on and think about, how set we are on these third Fridays of the month, and whether we might be able to accommodate that change in the schedule to get more involvement from the county. So, Jerry, you have your hand up.
Appreciate the conversation, but before we get into it, you might want to ask Jill what days work for her, so we don't pick a day that also bumps into her schedule.
I will be actually meeting with her within the next, I think I have my lunch meeting with her either next week or the week after that. We haven't set a date, but I can.
So give some options. Give us some options.
Yes, absolutely. I think generally her, our Mondays are really kind of tied up because of preparations for supervisors meetings on Tuesdays. So I'm beginning to wonder if Wednesdays or Thursdays might be better for her, but I will inquire with her, and that's a great comment. And I'll get back to the group about, that.
And it really depends on the agency staff, their schedules too, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I that's why I'm just trying to plant the seed now, and I'll be talking more directly with a lot of our partners in my standing meetings with folks. So, yeah, again, just wanted to plant a seed and put that out there that there was inquiry about that from the county specifically. So, okay. I didn't have anything else from the facilitation team. Field tour planning, we normally have a February 3rd Friday scheduled meeting, being that February is oftentimes difficult to get into the field. It was recommended that we have that as we did last year with Tara sort of approaching the topic of program of work, that the U.S. Forest Service basically have that slot again this year, and I believe that we mentioned this in November, kind of set that time. That will be February 3rd Friday, February 21st, and for that, I know that I spoke with Ben, as I mentioned earlier. I spoke with Ben Sundahl last week, and he expressed to me that both Rachel and Ted would like to be at that meeting. So that's going to be hybridized. I'm going to go ahead and do a tester and run that meeting out of the TRRP office, so that people that want to show up and be there in person can be, but it will also be hybridized. We'll be getting out a notification to that effect, in advance of that meeting. But I just wanted to let people know that and get that on people's calendars as a save the date. And then, and as I mentioned, I'd like to hopefully be able to get out to have a look at what we've come up with for, at least for beginning looks, early pre-scoping for the field tour in April or June for the partner-led NEPA that the RCD will be leading for the Trinity Alps Access Project. And then on to agenda building. Anybody that's left on the call have any specific items that they would like to see on our March agenda?
Well, wait, we talked about the revised white paper.
Yes. Yep. Anything else? We had some other follow-ups. We'll get that we'll make sure that are on the next agenda also, from earlier discussions in the meeting today. But if anybody has anything that comes to mind, please reach out to me and we'll make sure to get it on the agenda. Thank you all so much for your time. We ran a little longer, but as I said, it was a pretty ambitious agenda that Jim built for me today. So we appreciate you sticking it out, and we'll talk to you all soon. We hope you have a good weekend, happy holiday, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Right now.